Welcome back, everyone, and hello. My name is Dr. Laura Jaggett, and I'm glad you're here today for another episode of the How to Life podcast. Today, you're listening to episode 48. I have a little unofficial series on my show called What Am I Going to Do with My Life? And there are scattered episodes that fall into this category, and today is one of them. My guest today is Isaac Oakeson. He is a civil engineer with a PE license, which stands for Professional Engineer, and he also runs a site called civilengineeringacademy.com, which helps civil engineers and students pass their exams. He offers practice exams, courses, and he also hosts the Civil Engineering Academy podcast where he discusses all things related to this career. Personalities, polishing your LinkedIn profile, preparing for exams, how to deal with the stress of exam taking, just to name a few. So if you always wanted to know how to get into this field, what education you need, what type of jobs are out there, and the financial potential, this podcast is going to be a great resource to get those questions answered and get you pointed in this direction. Hello, Isaac. Thanks so much for joining me on the How to Life podcast. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Before we get into this topic, will you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, what you do, who you are?
Yes, so I am Isaac Oakeson, and I am a registered professional engineer. And when you get that license, you get initials after your name called PE. So I could sign my name real fancy, Isaac Oakeson, PE. I am a civil engineer, and I work for a local utility company. And I design transmission poles, which, I am actually a project manager now, but I used to design transmission poles, and nobody really knows what that is because you don't think about it. And transmission poles are all of those tall poles you see running along freeways that carry power lines. And that's what I designed for a good 10 years. So I'm a civil engineer, and I was working doing transmission design work.
So I'm going to start at the beginning of the questioning because I don't know the answer to this. What exactly is a civil engineer?
They're nice engineers. No, I'm just kidding. No, a civil engineer, they design everything that society uses. And what I mean by that is they design the buildings that you're in, the roads that you drive, to the water that you drink to make sure that it's clean and pure. And civil engineering helps design all of those things to help society run and function properly. So there are things that you don't necessarily think about, but when you don't have them, you know you don't have them. So
it's everything we take for granted.
Yes. So roads, buildings, constructing things, structures, bridges, roads, foundations to big buildings. All of those things are designed by civil engineers.
What's the difference between all these engineers? Civil engineer, mechanical engineer?
That's a good question. So there are a lot of different disciplines you can go into in engineering, and civil engineering is just one of the branches. Mechanical engineers, they specialize in stuff that is moving. So it could be cars or parts, or they also specialize in like heating and air conditioning. That's a fancy topic called thermodynamics, and it just has to deal with heat and the transfer of heat. So that's mechanical engineering. They also dive into robots and stuff. That's why a lot of people like going into mechanical engineering. Mechanical engineers kind of dabble in a lot of different areas. They dab in a little bit of electrical stuff, a little bit of civil stuff. There's a kind of a running joke between mechanical engineers and civil engineers. Civil engineers design the targets that mechanical engineers blow up. And then there's also electrical engineers, biochemical engineers. There's a lot of different branches of engineering.
So in short, an engineer is a creator.
Yeah.
You create things.
Yep. They're creators. They are creative. and they have to be problem solvers and thinkers.
What got you into civil engineering? Why did you decide to do this?
So that's a good question. I myself had an older brother that graduated in civil engineering, and I saw that he had a very good career path in front of him. And I was good at math, and I actually enjoyed it. So I just decided I would give it a shot. And so, knowing I was decent at math and looking ahead at other people's career paths and where that got them, and so I made a decision to shoot for civil engineering, and here we are. And the other, I guess the thing to talk about is that there are different branches, like I said, within civil engineering. So how did I get into this weird transmission engineer position within civil engineering? And that's simply because when you're in college, your college will invite different companies to come and display what they do. Maybe it might spur your imagination on what excites you. And so I remember there was a presentation from a company that was showing these transmission lines in a software they were using. Anyway, that's kind of how I ended up where I'm at and how I got into civil engineering.
So you decided that in college. Did you know you were going to go into civil engineering in high school?
I did not. I think I wanted to be an engineer. I just didn't know which one. Like we mentioned before, there's a lot of different areas to go into. And so you will quickly learn what you like as soon as you start college. And so I think the first question is, do you enjoy math? Do you enjoy science? If you're in high school, do you enjoy those topics? And if those are things that you enjoy or that you scored well in, engineering might be a good career path for you. And when you start college, you will quickly learn probably which area of engineering that excites you the most. And then you could go from there. That's kind of how I started. And when I took the classes in college that I liked, I noticed that I was leaning towards civil engineering. And so I just went with that path.
What schooling is involved to become a civil engineer?
So to become a civil engineer, you need a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. And to become a professional engineer, there are 2 major exams that you have to pass. And I'm only going to speak for civil engineers because other disciplines of engineering also dive into this professional engineering license, but they don't necessarily need it. Civil engineers, it's more of like a need, like you need to get it. And so when you're in school, in college, you have to take one exam, and it's called the FE exam, the Fundamentals of Engineering. It's 6 hours, and it tests you on all of this basic knowledge of engineering. And it can be math, statistics, and other topics of engineering. And then after that exam, and after you graduate, you have to work for a certain amount of time, get experience out in the field. And then you can take what's called the PE exam, or professional engineering exam. And that exam is currently an 8-hour exam. It's broken up into 2 parts, an AM and a PM portion. The AM portion is 4 hours, and they test you on a breadth of topics. They don't dive deep into one topic. It's just a lot of different topics they test you on in civil engineering. And in the afternoon, you have to choose which discipline of engineering you want to dive deep into. And then they ask you more difficult questions related to that field.
Now, that test is to become a professional engineer. You do not have to take that unless you want that title.
That is right.
And what does that title get you, Isaac?
So that title, you can become an engineer without that. But when you get that title, that will launch your career path. It opens doors where they might be shut. Employers love engineers with a professional engineering license. It just tells an employer that you know what you're doing and what you're talking about, that you are ethical. A lot of engineers that are designing structures, it's a serious topic because there's life involved. So what it does is it gives you raises, increase your marketability, increases the respect that your peers have for you. And there's a lot of self-satisfaction in just earning it yourself. This is a huge goal for a lot of people. But that's kind of the things that it does for you. It opens a lot of doors. It makes you more employable, and people love seeing that you have that.
Going back to the FE exam, do you have to take that before you graduate with your degree?
So yes, if you go to a school that is accredited, they call it ABET accreditation. Most schools that are ABET accredited universities require that you pass the FE exam to graduate. And it's administered outside of the school's programs. It's administered by this whole other company that runs these tests. They're called the NCEES, and they administer the FE and the PE exams for engineers.
Are these additional licenses or these additional titles, are they equivalent to a master's or doctorate in other fields?
I'll say this. When civil engineers are debating getting a master's degree or getting their PE license, I will always point them to go get the PE license over a master's degree because it is valued much more heavily than a master's. But I will say that most engineers do get master's degrees anyways, because once I knew which area of engineering I was going into, it was helpful to go back to school to get more knowledge on certain topics.
So you definitely have to have a BA to do this job. You can't
Yes.
apprentice in any way.
Yeah, you can't be an apprentice. You can go work as an intern, and you can do that, very early. If you know some of the software, like there's some software out there, one's called AutoCAD. If you know some of these softwares or somewhat familiar with them, you can go apply with some contract engineering companies, and they'd be happy to hire interns as drafters, and you can start in that environment learning what civil engineers do. That's kind of how you can start. And I started that way myself. I started as an intern while I was in college, and most companies will hire you. You don't get a lot of benefits, but you get a decent hourly wage, and they'll help you because they'll work around your school hours. And so you're trying to learn, the subject that you're diving into. You're getting experience in different areas. You can bounce around to different companies if they're hiring interns because you want a lot of experience. And that's kind of how you can get a feel for what you like and go from there.
Does every university have a civil engineering department or a degree, or do you have to go to a specific university if that's the field you want to be in?
Not every university has an engineering degree. A lot of these online schools are probably not going to have engineering degrees. So you're probably going to go to a more established university to get your degree. To keep costs low, you can start at a community college, and then you can go to university and just polish up the next 2 years, and you got your degree.
If you're going to community college, what are the courses you want to focus on before you transfer into a 4-year?
So if you're going to a community college, they've probably got an established program with courses that you're going to have to take before you get transferred up there. So you're going to learn statics. You're going to dive into math, quite a bit of math, pretty heavily. Dynamics, which deals with stuff that is moving. Physics. These are all little prerequisites before you dive into real core engineering topics.
Is there anything you can do even earlier in high school?
There is what's called the American Society of Civil Engineers, and they usually have what's called a young member chapter. And if you just look this up online, you can locate a young member chapter in your community. You can join that, and that will immediately put you in a network of people. Sometimes universities will get people involved in high school, and sometimes they do these competitions and stuff, or they'll come and do a display of a bridge or a building. All of those things are ways to get involved in civil engineering.
So it sounds like you really enjoy this field. Is it fun?
Yeah, you can choose what you want to go into. So if you like sitting at a desk and just hammering out a design or something, you can do that. If you want to be outside, like construction management, or you want to go out and be with a crew that's building this stuff and, help them and oversee that work, you can do that too. I myself like what I do because it's a mix of office work, and I was able to get out and go see the projects. One of the biggest things I really like and enjoy about being a civil engineer is that you might design something on a computer, but you actually get to see it be built in real life. And it's there for a long, long time. And then you can drive by and you can say, hey, I built that.
It sounds like there's a crossover between civil engineer and architects.
Yes, they work with each other. Those are two different fields of study, but architects make things look very nice and pretty and put design to things. Engineers try to figure out how that's going to work. How is this fun design going to stay up? And how are we going to make this work so it passes all of the loads and criteria and codes that we have to follow to make sure it stays up? Yes.
Do you work directly with architects? Do you have to work hand in hand?
So they do work with each other often, but it depends again on the kind of the area that you go into within civil engineering.
Well, it sounds like there's no shortage of jobs or job potential for civil engineers. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're in high demand. We need more women in engineering too. And, I encourage anybody that has any interest in math or in STEM topics to dive into it. Go see what you like within engineering. There's a lot of different areas you could go into, and they're very much needed. Every year they need more, and it's a growing field. There's always going to be demand for more roads, more buildings, more water resources, and all of those are tied to other civil engineering things.
So lots of opportunity for employment and salary potential. Good?
Yes, salary potential is good. If you're going to come out of college, you're probably between 50 and 70K. And as you get your PE license and move up, you're going to be making six figures over your time. And it's a very stable position. If you don't want to worry about volatility in a market, civil engineering is very good with that. Very much in demand. And once you get, your FE and your PE done, it just opens more doors for you.
What has been your best experience in this field? What did you have the most fun with?
So the most fun I've had is I have built some structures and solved problems. That's what I really enjoy, solving problems and coming up with solutions to other people's problems and seeing it built in the field and seeing it all in front of me, and knowing you were a part of that. That's really nice.
I can tell how passionate you are about this field. And you have a podcast that you've been doing for a while now. Tell us all about this podcast.
Yeah, so I took these exams, I prepared, and I've eventually passed them. And I wanted to help other people do the same, kind of as a guy in the trenches. And so I started a site called civilengineeringacademy.com. And I started a podcast, the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. And what I do is I try to help engineers with their exams. I also talk about all kinds of topics that deal with engineering, whether that's career related or personalities or brushing up on your LinkedIn profile, because that's really your online resume these days, and preparing for these exams, tips, tools, resources, everything I can do to help engineers become professional engineers, no matter which stage they are in their life. And we've helped people that are just in college all the way up to people that are really close to retiring and still trying to take these exams to just get that goal of having it done. So as part of Civil Engineering Academy, we released some practice exams for people. We've released courses for students to help them specifically with the FE, specifically with the PE exam. And so all of these resources at civilengineeringacademy.com are helping people to eventually get that license.
Isaac, what advice do you have as far as this field is concerned in going in the direction that they want to go in?
If you're in high school, recognize what you enjoy doing or what you're good at. If you're well into your career and you're considering this, my advice is to talk to somebody that is a civil engineer. There's tons of people on just LinkedIn you could reach out to. You can reach out to me as well. I'm Isaac at civilengineeringacademy.com. So ISAAC at civilengineeringacademy.com. And we can talk about it. And then once you commit to it, because if you're making a career change, you're probably going to have to do some education. And I would try to get that done as fast as possible. If you can knock that out as quickly as possible, you'll be way ahead of the game.
Thank you, Isaac, for this information. I hope it enlightens some of you out there. I really appreciate your time today. Thanks.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
There you go. I learned so much about this career in this interview. I didn't know anything about civil engineering before speaking with Isaac. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a 5-star rating on Apple or your favorite podcast platform. If you want more information or want to contact Isaac directly, go check out the show notes at howtolife.com/048. Let me know if something resonated with you or maybe something sparked within you. I love those stories because you never know what might lead you to some clarity. You can contact me directly through my website, howtolife.com. You can also send me a DM on Instagram at LauraJaggett_howtolife or Facebook at Laura Jaggett. I have some other podcasts about potential careers. Episode 27 teaches you how to take that skill that you're already good at and make money freelancing. Episode 29 talks about the benefits of a military career. Episode 30 is a fun talk about being an appliance tech, and episode 42 is about the construction industry. And that one is a great episode to listen to that will support and contribute to this one about civil engineering. Thank you for listening today, and thank you for all of your support. I'll be back next time with more great information about life situations, adulting skills, and how to approach both with knowledge and grace. It's a journey, and it's practice, and you're doing just fine. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. You got this.